how eClose enhances the modern mortgage experience, and it'll be led by our partners at SimpleNexus. Before we kind of dive into the webinar presentation today, just going to go through some quick housekeeping items before we kick things off here. So if you would proceed to the next slide for me. Just a general reminder out to our attendees as you're filtering into today's discussion. Be sure to check out our TMC Connect and member event calendar pages on the Mortgage Collaborative website. And that's your best way to view a schedule of upcoming TMC Connect web broadcasts. At the same point, I encourage you to keep checking in as we're going to be continually adding new sessions based off the feedback from our members and our partners. So for today's call, whether you've dialed in or you've connected via your computer, all lines have been muted for the call. And that's done only to avoid any background noise in your area and just to ensure that all our attendees can hear today's presentation clearly. Now that said, we want these discussions to be as interactive as possible. So I encourage all attendees, please feel free to submit any questions that you have throughout the course of today's discussion, and we'll go ahead and verbalize those on your behalf to our discussion leaders. So how do you do that? Well, if you are on the Zoom call and you scroll to the bottom menu, you can click on either the chat or Q&A functions and type in any questions that you have for the discussion leaders, and I'll see those come through and be able to verbalize those out towards the end of today's call. As a reminder to attendees, today's call will be recorded. It will be available for playback. So our attendees will receive a copy of the recording as well as a copy of the presentation deck distributed out in a follow-up email that you should receive tomorrow. Just in case we do run out of time today and we're not able to address all questions that come in, I will go ahead and screenshot those questions and be able to share them back out with our discussion leaders to respond to with any necessary feedback. I'll go ahead and proceed to the next slide. So as far as today's discussion, as I mentioned, leading the call will be our preferred partners, SimpleNexus. And from the SimpleNexus team, first off, we have Vice President of Product, Shane Westra. How's it going, Shane?
Good. How are you doing, Tom?
Good to see you. Good, doing well. And we also have Senior Product Manager, Tyler Prowse. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, nice to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Well, we really appreciate both of you guys taking the time out to lead today's discussion. I know everybody's extremely busy right now, so really appreciate it, especially for the benefit of our members at the Collaborative. So on that note, let's go ahead and dive right into today's discussion. You'll proceed to the next slide for me. So let me start it off with a question. Shane, I'm going to direct it your way. We've been talking in the mortgage industry about disruption on the technology side, and really in particular, the e-closing side for years and more likely decades, depending on who you talk to. Why is now potentially the tipping point for e-mortgage and e-closing in particular adoption within our industry?
Yeah, great question. Thomas, you mentioned, we have been progressing down this road a little bit for quite some time, however, at a very slow pace. I think that we would be getting there in the next few years regardless, but of course the pandemic just accelerated things greatly. Instead of just disrupting, movie theaters and retail and sporting events, this was a huge impact for the industry to realize that everyone suddenly needed to work more remote than ever before. And so even though the digital transformation within the mortgage industry has always been very much kind of starting at the beginning, the loan application, and then working its way through, which is why I think closing was one of the latter parts to be truly made remote. Just the pandemic made it suddenly urgent for everyone to tackle. And it's not only that, but just the regulations, things like RON, where a handful of states accepted it. Now that due to COVID, the legislation changes were just very rapid to occur. And so I think that really helped everyone establish a vision and understanding of kind of the benefits that we would get here. And also I think the other reason is just the consumers expect this. they expect a seamless experience and the ability to do this more easily than ever before. So I think before they were just kind of more accepting of the status quo, but now they just realize that no, everything should be easy to use, or just used to using an app for everything, right, these days. And so I think just that consumer mindset also has accelerated it. But overall, definitely the pandemic and the COVID has been the biggest instigating factor, I'd say. But with that, I think has come a lot of realization from both the vendors like SimpleNexus and a lot of the lenders that, well, why not? You know, why wouldn't we do eClose? There's very few reasons why not. Definitely some work to do to get there, but I think it's just the natural progression that people are finally ready to accept.
No, it makes a ton of sense. I feel like this time's been long overdue.
Perfect.
So on that note, I know we've got a couple of polling questions here. I guess I'll turn it back to you if you want to queue it up for our attendees to respond to. So everybody on the call, if you can go ahead and respond. I want to know, does your organization currently utilize an e-closing solution?
We've got 3 of 6 voted so far.
And with this question, if there's any, you know, there's varying degrees of eClose, right? So I would say, you know, mark yes if you are dabbling in it, even a little.
Well, so far 3 people have responded, and there's the results.
All right, so very interesting that, and this is kind of similar to what we found in the industry so far, is that some people are starting to use it a little bit, but really the vast majority have not yet entered into this. I think a lot of people are very interested, you know, hence webinars like this. But from what we've heard also in talking to our customers is that most people have not yet started to do e-closing, which is a great opportunity, you know, for forums like this to learn a little bit more on what eClose is all about.
Are you ready for the second poll?
Yeah, let's go to poll question number 2.
Let's do it.
So poll question number
everybody,
2.
this is multi-choice, this option, wanting to know what your organization's largest obstacle is to adopting an e-closing solution. And in many cases, it may be more than one. So feel free to select any and all that apply.
Okay, looks like we got a couple people answering. Let's get some more. All right, do you guys want me to launch? It looks like 2 more people have not responded, but I'm not sure that they will. So we can see where we are. There we go.
All right. Yeah, not too surprising based on what we've heard from others as well. A lot of concern over implementation complexities. And I think a lot of that is just, yeah, how exactly does this work? A lot of people just don't know how difficult this is to set up. And then, you know, concern over just the volume too. You know, I think right now there's just so much business going on at all the lenders across the country that people are a little hesitant to take on anything else other than trying to get some of these deals done that they currently have. And then the regulations also, I think, is an important piece too, and one that We can talk a little bit further later on, but just to touch in it, we kind of bucket things into two categories. One is hybrid, and hybrid really should have zero concerns with regulation complexities. It is accepted by all the investors. It's accepted in all 50 states. And so hybrid is one that should be safe for everyone to move forward with. It's really the RON, the remote online notarization, that does have a little bit more regulatory concerns. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that on how that might kind of evolve into your rollout strategy. So great, thanks. Yeah, thanks everyone for taking those polls. So next up, we're going to talk a little bit about the eClose Advantage. And again, why is this important and what you can look for in an eClose solution. One of the biggest areas here is borrower convenience. As a home buyer, you want that to be a seamless, easy process. And again, in this day and age where they're just used to using a website or a mobile app for most everything that they do in their lives, mortgage should be the same. And so we want that to be extremely easy and also consistent. I think that's an important piece, that you don't want to kind of give some tools to the borrower at part of the process and then kind of bait and switch and give them other things to do. We want it to be as consistent as possible. And the next up is settlement agent collaboration, really having some better efficiencies between the lender and settlement agent. And then the lender efficiencies as well. There's a lot to be gained here. And ultimately, time is money, especially right now where there's so much volume and lenders are so busy. Any efficiencies are extremely beneficial. And these are just kind of the high-level ones that we're mentioning here. And Tyler Prowse here is going to go a little bit deeper onto each one of these categories.
All right, cool. So yeah, let's talk about the borrower convenience. Let's dive into some key points that we're trying to solve for the borrower. So let's go ahead and jump to the next slide. And the first thing is single sign-on. With Simple Nexus in particular, we're trying to help create an experience for the borrower that begins with your home search and that takes you through every step of the home ownership journey. So, and we want to keep you all in one place where once you become familiar with the process, you can complete each step in that same environment. And so with Simple Nexus, that's a pretty nice advantage where your borrowers, they may begin their home search right through your app, and they may apply for a loan right on the app and sign their disclosures, upload their documents, and we're going to take them all the way through eClose now, where they've done everything else prior, and now they can stay right on their phone or their web app on their computer, and they can take it. We can take them through the whole process. So we're all about trying to create that seamless borrower experience, and we have that little tagline, a platform they already know and trust, and they do. We want to keep them in an environment where if you've already signed your disclosures and your pre-closing disclosures, and then you're getting ready to close on your house, the process for signing on your closing documents is going to be almost the exact same. So we're not giving them anything new to do. We're not sending them to another service. We're not having them, create new logins. We're gonna keep them in the same place and have them complete the experience. So let's go ahead and jump. Next one. And something else we hope helps the industry is having a native mobile app. When having a native mobile app, when we roll out disclosures, we're seeing conversion rates and speeds take off. We're seeing people get work done a lot quicker. And when borrowers are able to do things like provide e-consent and sign their disclosures, almost instantly when they get them and get that information back to the lender can move forward in the process a lot faster as well and save money. We can get people to closing quicker. Another cool thing about native mobile apps is, we're giving people immediate notifications on their phone. And a mobile notification that comes from an app is way more likely to call a person's attention than an email or any notification that's waiting for you on your computer. So we really hope to help borrowers in particular, a lot of the, you know, a lot of the millennials who are buying homes and going through college, we're helping them be, you know, use technology and do what they do best. So it's an exciting time. And also, you know, we make it easy for your borrowers to share their experience with friends and family. So, you know, referral rates go up dramatically as well because they have an app that helped them do something amazing, and now they can share that with other people. So having a native mobile app is part of what makes that possible. Let's go ahead and move on. And now let's talk about the settlement agent. So one thing that's really cool is at Simple Nexus, we've been helping loan officers and borrowers do so much of the loan process and collaborate and get so many things done. But with closing and e-closing, we need to involve the settlement agent. And so with e-closing taking a large role, you know, with the pandemic that hit, we've been able to add settlement agent collaboration into our system. We were already sending a lot of closing information and closing documents to settlement agents, and but now we're helping them even more with hybrid e-closing and providing more notifications and more ways to communicate with the borrower. And you know, what's nice is we didn't have to go out and build a brand new platform. We went out and built just, you know, we extended our current platform. And so they're joining a platform that's already being used by the borrower and the lender. And that's really nice. If you can join a platform that's already has adoption and that the other parties have already been onboarded, they've already gone through their implementation, you're joining a pattern of success already. And so we're taking away a lot of variables that could hurt. And you know, it also adds insecurity because everything that happens is you know, we're removing the ability, not removing the ability, but we're promoting the ability to send and transfer information through the platform. So instead of doing things through email or your personal device through text messaging, we can facilitate communication securely through our platform, which is really nice. With settlement agents, we're also going to be extending some future chat and scheduling capabilities, making it even easier to get everybody aligned on the tasks that need to be done and when they need to be done. So chat is coming out. We've already released chat for settlement. I mean, for loan officers and for borrowers and realtors, and it's coming out now for settlement agents really soon as well. So we're doing a lot to help the settlement agent experience improve. And one thing I'll point out right now is you know, it's up there, onboarding. We've already onboarded over 1,300 settlement agents in the last few months, and you know, it probably took close to zero support from our internal teams because we've made it that easy. We've made it very self-driven. We invite them into the environment when they have tasks to do. We help them create an account with no friction. And we deliver them notifications and their documents in a pretty easy to understand experience. And so it's a matter of minutes to get settlement agents onboarded. And we're definitely going to be enhancing what we provide to them. So over time, I assume we'll probably need to provide more training and more materials, but the process, we're going to try to keep it very frictionless and try to help them. And the same thing goes for lenders. I think the next slide is lender efficiencies, and I'll kind of hit on the onboarding again with lender efficiencies as well. So cool little highlight of our closing portal there. But with lenders, just this morning, I did an implementation call with a new lender, helping them get onboarded to hybrid eClose. And in under 1 hour, we had everything set up from a technical standpoint to enable them to start sending test packages, to even do some live packages. And a lot of that's because we already have some existing things. We have a deep LOS integration with Encompass. So the fact that this lender is already doing disclosures with us, the fact that they're already leveraging the sync that we have between our platform and Encompass made it so adding in another element is benefiting off of previously existing tech. So our LOS integration is awesome. And then, you know, add in the remote readiness. Our system is designed to help people be socially distant, right? I mean, from the very beginning, even before the pandemic hit, we're trying to enable loan officers to be able to be outside the office and get their work done, not have to be tied to the desk. And we're enabling borrowers to complete the process of getting their loan at any place they want with their phone. And we're adding in communication and tools for the realtor to help them throughout the process, stay up to date. And adding in eClose, we're already ready to support that because we already are a remote company. So that's pretty nice. And then team member access, something that we're going to be hitting on really hard over the next few months is the back office team, the team who is supporting the entire loan process. That's not necessarily part of the sales cycle. We have processors, disclosure desks, closers, post-closers, shippers, funders. We have a lot of people who need to be notified, who need different features, different tracking abilities. And we're starting to extend the goodness we provide to loan officers to the rest of the company. So we're providing team member access to these team members who are really supporting processes that go beyond more of that sales cycle. So, disclosures, e-closing, post-closing, making sure we get people involved is important. And all is really good mobile engagement, good conversion rates. Just this month or this week, we hit over 1 million disclosures sent through our system. And our conversion rates of getting disclosures signed is incredibly high. And so we're having amazing engagement. And really what that all leads up to is the lender is able to do things incredibly efficient. So.
And Tyler, could I jump in? As you were talking about team members, one thing that I'd like to mention, for us, one of the development processes that we use is to actually do a lot of user interviews and talk to our customers and kind of understand their pain points. And our loan officer team, they found that so much of the bottlenecks is just because the LOs, they're kind of the main point of contact, right, for the borrower. And so they get dragged into all sorts of things, including things that the processor would normally do or the LOA. And so with the team member capabilities, things like chat, suddenly opens this up to allow other people to really own their role a little bit more completely. And this really allows the loan officer to focus more on getting new business, getting more leads, and fostering kind of the sales portion of it up front a lot more than ever before. And so as we've identified that as one of the main pain points that a lender has overall, that kind of ties into team member, ties into chat, and definitely ties into eClose, that we can minimize the amount of time that the LO has to kind of work at the stage of the process and let them be focused elsewhere and driving up more business. So just want to make mention of that.
Definitely. And and to speak of this efficiency, like I said, we did an implementation call where we covered all the technical aspects and most of the initial training in under an hour. And I assume with a little bit more training and maybe, I'm going to guess, just a couple more phone calls, we will have done an entire implementation for hybrid eClose with another lender. So we're really driving on these efficiencies and helping people get started. And I know I saw earlier in that poll that there's a lot of concern over your current volumes and what the implementation cycle will be like, and we're aware of that. And so we're trying to make it as easy as possible and not as burdensome of a process. But let's go ahead and I think that may be the vast majority of what I wanted to talk about. We have a next slide. Yeah, so I think we'll open it up for some Q&A.
Yeah, and I would just chime right in, guys, and just follow it up kind of on your feedback too. I think that's what we've, as well as pretty much everybody's seen just from the lender community right now, trying to manage that influx of refi volume. But I think the most forward-thinking members in our network are looking out beyond, this current refi cycle and trying to think of, how they're going to align their organizational structure to support predominantly purchase business as we dig, into 2021 and beyond. And how do you streamline from a digital process from pre-app to post-close, a structure that, you know, to your point, is going to be most inviting to the borrower, and especially on the Simple Nexus side, being able to leverage a native mobile app. I imagine, you know, as you laid out earlier, where are, you know, today's borrowers most likely to immediately respond to notifications and things like that? It's going to come directly from their phones. And meanwhile, after that transaction too, I got to imagine it's a very strong retention platform to have that native mobile app still be on their phones beyond that loan origination process, you know, for future opportunities. Maybe there's a chance to refinance or they move to a different property. So I think it's very powerful kind of tying together all those digital synchronicities.
Exactly.
Yeah. But on that note, you know, Tyler, as you mentioned, you know, we're going to turn it over to the Q&A portion of the discussion here. So just a quick reminder to our attendees, any questions that you have for Shane or Tyler, feel free to facilitate those either via the chat or Q&A function, and I'll be able to queue them up on your behalf. See, we've got a couple already in the queue, so let me jump in here. Related to Ron, first question I have is, should I implement hybrid first or go straight to fully eClose and Ron solution?
Cool. I can take that. I'll take that, Tyler, if that's okay. Great question, by the way, and one that we get a lot as well. Definitely, I think Ron will be just the status quo years from now. That'll be the default. That's what everyone will be used to. But for now, just because Ron is still a little bit in flux in terms of which states support it. So there's a whole set of eligibility requirements for Ron. There's, you know, does your state support it? Down, you know, potentially at the county level, does your investor support it? Underwriter, title. And so all of those things need to line up for Ron to function. And if it does, it's great because it streamlines the process even more. But going straight to Ron is a little bit more complex. And so my advice would be to start with hybrid, to get that in place first, because again, that is supported everywhere. Nationwide, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing hybrid. And so I'd say, you know, get that set up first, let it, you know, work out any kinks that there might be, which it's actually pretty straightforward, and then start to implement Ron at that point. So that would be kind of my recommendation. You know, hybrid first, but then once you're at that point doing a hybrid, then it's a pretty easy jump to do Ron. And so don't stop at hybrid. You know, if looking for a vendor, definitely choose a vendor that can do hybrid now and can do Ron in the near future. But I'd say there are a lot of advantages of going hybrid first.
Yeah, so that's a great point too. And I think the majority of our members within the network that have dipped their toe into the eClose process, you know, kind of taking that similar walk, crawl, run approach as you kind of laid out, implementing hybrid first, to your point, kind of working out the operational kinks there, and then looking at that as a springboard to then try to proceed to, you know, fully Ron or eClose transaction. Yeah. Another question here kind of piggybacks off that. You know, are hybrid and Ron options available nationwide today?
Yeah, and so hybrid is definitely available nationwide. No issues there whatsoever. Essentially, hybrid falls under the same categorization as just e-signatures in general. And so what is typically being done with disclosures or e-consent falls under the same laws. And so hybrid is fully supported nationwide. You know, Fannie, Freddie, everyone else accepts hybrid workflows. So that should be completely fine to proceed with. Ron, it changes almost on an hour-to-hour basis. It's been interesting to watch. When the pandemic hit, there was really only a handful of states that did support Ron. And many of them many of the states and legislatures jumped on that very quickly and got some laws on the books. Others had more of just an executive order, like a temporary exception for either Ron or other methods. RIN is another one that you will hear. And so those are in place here and there. It's kind of a patchwork type scenario, but more and more states are getting those permanent laws in the books, which is great. There are a handful of states that are holdouts. There's about 4 or so, most notably California, where RON is not yet available. And so I'd say right now it's 40 states or so. Definitely it's safe to proceed with RON, and the others hopefully will follow suit very quickly. But right now that's kind of what the current situation looks like.
Yeah, and to your point, Shane, I think at the beginning of the pandemic too, we saw a lot of individual states look to put in place executive order legislation to try to open up RON type transactions, to the mortgage industry, considering we knew so little about, how long there might be shelter in place orders and, when a borrower might be able to actually physically get to the closing table in the future. And I think just due to some of the ways they were written, not quite jiving with some of the state legislation that the industry has worked with on the books, that I think there was some trepidation there in, would these RON transactions be recognized or accepted by the GSEs? But I've heard a lot of those concerns start to diminish once we got past the April timeframe and lenders kind of learned to adapt to some different closing strategies to make it, as contactless of an environment as possible to complete the transaction. And, obviously it motivates states further to continue to push forward on that, on the RON legislation adoption. So, they can make it accessible to their homeowners as well.
Yep, exactly.
I've got one more question in the queue, but just a reminder to our attendees, kind of last call opportunity. Any additional questions that you've got, chat or Q&A function, go ahead and type those up in there and I'll be able to present those out to Shane and Tyler on your behalf. One other question I've got here in the queue, from your perspective, how long does it currently take to implement a hybrid eClose solution?
Tyler, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take that. So I think it largely depends on the amount of effort a lender can put into it. If a lender is like, and I can't speak to a ton of other solutions right now. I can speak to mostly a simple Nexus solution. But if a lender has maybe a dedicated team, maybe not even a dedicated team, but has some users who are available to implement technical pieces, which, like I said, are very quick, and then who are able to just run through the test cases, who are able to coordinate with different closers in particular on, who's going to learn this first and then roll it out. I don't see any reason why an implementation couldn't be done in a few weeks. And a lot of that would just be due to more so logistical things of coordinating with team members on different changes that are going to take place. More about training and making sure people are prepared that there's going to be some differences, but not necessarily more complexity, right? And so a lot of it's going to be, what kind of time can you devote to it? And I can speak to, last year when we were starting to implement a lot of our customers with disclosures, we had some customers, and that was actually a lot larger technical lift and a lot larger of a training implementation. So this, I'd say, was a lot smaller. And anyways, we had some lenders that took 6 weeks to get implemented on disclosures, and then we had some lenders who ran with it in less than a week. So it really depends on your own bandwidth and just at what speed you can move at. And so right now we understand that loan volumes are high. We understand that it's hard to get your closers to pull away from their daily process of helping close loans to be able to learn something slightly new and then to be able to train people. And so I suspect that's probably going to be the biggest barrier to helping people go a little bit faster, is just being able to find the time and make it a priority. But if a lender does find the time to make it a priority, I think it can happen in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks would be just a thought of mine.
And just to chime in there too, I think it also depends a lot on what other technology the lender has implemented already. We've noticed with a lot of our hybrid customers, if they had already been using disclosures, already using the closing portal, then it's super easy. Like Tyler mentioned, you had a call today and it was like an hour and it's pretty well set up. And so I think a little self-evaluation is good to understand, like, hey, are there some things that I should put in place that are more foundational before doing a hybrid? And if so, just kind of bake that into the time frame for implementation.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah, and that was going to be actually my follow-up question is, through the recent implementations you've done, if you come across any clients that maybe didn't already have the right partner infrastructure in place to, to work with SimpleNexus, kind of facilitate that last step. So I've heard that be kind of commonplace as well. And I know we've got great resources within the network at both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as well as MERS that can, help kind of consultate through a lender's process to ensure that, to you guys' point, that you've got the right, partner and technology infrastructure in place, to help expedite that time frame to implement.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, on that note, gentlemen, I don't have any additional questions in the queue for our attendees. If there's something that you wanted to address that called into the line and aren't able to facilitate it through the chat, you can feel free to reach out to either Tyler or Shane directly, or myself or our team at the Mortgage Collaborative, and be more than happy to turn that over to the SimpleNexus team for any additional feedback. But I want to thank Shane, Tyler, both of you guys for sharing your invaluable insights today. SimpleNexus as well for the partnership and their support of the collaborative and our members, and also for supplying the swag to wear on the call today. It keeps me from having to do laundry for a couple extra days. So I love the apparel, and I'll keep wearing them on these calls. So I want to thank you guys again. This was very insightful.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, TMC.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And lastly, thank you to our attendees. Not lost on us how busy everybody is. So truly appreciate you listening in. And on that note, we will call it a day, and hope you all stay well and stay sane and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Thank you.